Hey, this is another quick archival upload of an old video of mine. This one's a review of Sonic Spinball from, I think, around September of 2020. This is one of my first videos I ever put out on the internet. Once again, this is from a channel that no longer exists. I'm putting it on this channel, so it's still publicly available somewhere, even though it's garbage. Two things to note of: this video doesn't have my gameplay in it. This is all gameplay from online that I downloaded from YouTube. I don't know where this footage comes from. Second off, in the beginning of this video, I called Puyo Puyo Tetris, I called Tetris Puyo Puyo Tetris. I was about to say, how did I make that mistake? But then I immediately made it again. Fucking oops.
The classic Sonic games are some of the most beloved games on the Genesis, and even video games in general. At least the four mainline games are. While Sonic 1 through 3 and Knuckles are some of the most immersive and well-designed games from the era, people seem to forget that these aren't the only games in the series on the Genesis.
There were 3 Sonic spin-offs released for the Sega Genesis: Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine in November of 1993, a reskin of Puyo Puyo Tetris similar to that of Kirby's Avalanche, Sonic 3D Blast in 1996, a top-down Sonic game that wasn't good, and finally, the game we'll be looking at today, Sonic Spinball for the Sega Genesis, also released in November of 1993. Whenever I see this game brought up online, I never see it included in classic Sonic discussions, and I think I know why. It was released right before Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, a game that people care about. Now, nobody cares about Sonic Spinball, and I think that's because it's bad.
I finally got a hold of a copy for the Genesis, so let's see why nobody cares about this by playing it for ourselves. This is Sonic the Hedgehog Spinball. This button's looking pretty promising, but before I press it, a little backstory on the game. After the release of Sonic 2, Sega's marketing folks realized that the stage Casino Night Zone was one of the most popular levels among players. This is when designer Peter Morwaywick said,
"We could make a game out of this."
And development started. The game needed to be completed by holiday of 1993, while the Japanese dev team made Big Ol' 3 over there for 1994. Now, this didn't mean that there weren't previous Sonic devs working on the game, as Sega knew its release date could not be completed reasonably by inexperienced devs, so they sent over some of the American devs. Now that I'm done with all that nerd stuff, I can finally press the start button and... Would you trust someone who looks like this? Yeah, I'm not a fan of Sonic's design in this game. In most game, he looks determined to defeat Eggman. In Spinball, he looks like he just threw up and is standing outside his mom's bedroom to tell her. He's in ball form for the majority of the game, and the rest of the game's sprite work is pretty nice to look at, though it looks nowhere near as high quality as Sonic 2. Wow, I've talked this long without pressing another button, and... what is up with this momentum? While this is a pinball game, it also feels the need to remind you that it's also a Sonic game by having you run around in gremlin mode so you can emphasize how fast you are, because the second you walk into this plant thingy, it becomes a pinball game.
It checks out.
Every level follows the same structure. Collect all the Chaos Emeralds in the level by hitting the right item and making it trigger an event.
This is the entire game.
I understand that most classic Sonic games can be boiled down to,
all you do is jump and hold right!
But this is all that the game is. The gameplay is repetitive and at that, bad. It feels like the devs didn't realize that you would fall anywhere but straight down, so I always end up speeding directly into death. The easiest example of this is on level 1 when you're supposed to land in this bucket and end up flying directly into acid. Speaking of levels, this game has them, and 4 of them at that.
While the amount of levels is about half of the standard Sonic game, it turns out that it took longer for me to complete than Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and unfortunately for me, I played through all of them.
Level 1 is Toxic Caves. They're caves, they're toxic, the boss looks like this.
Ah!
I don't know why, but this kind of reminds me of that one Godzilla creepypasta. Level 2 is a power station that uses lava to power machines. Neat concept, lame level. The boss has a bunch of decapitated heads inside a boiler. Whatever the devs were on, I want some of it. Level 3 is the machine, and wouldn't you guess it, it's a mechanical level. I mostly remember this one for animal death, and the boss of this level is powered by it. Sega had no mercy. And the final level is Showdown. You collect all the emeralds and make it to the top of the base and defeat Robotnik. Credits roll.
But wait, you may be asking, he forgot to talk about the bonus levels!
Honestly, I'm indifferent to this game. It's fine, a good 3-hour time waster, but would I come back to it? I would say no, but Sega feels like throwing this into every collection ever. Sonic Mega Collection, Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, the Genesis Classic. Sega wants this to be right up there with the classics. But in my opinion, this is just a filler title. But was it ever meant to be anything else? The game was only made to have a dear lord anything Sonic related out that holiday season while the better game was being created. Now there was a sequel released for the Game Boy Advance, and I might check it out later, but now I'm too busy playing a different bad pinball game for the Game Boy Advance. I give Sonic Spinball a